Hello, happy Sunday. Sorry for the late start here, guys. A little bit of technical difficulties, but we're working through them. I hope you guys have all had a beautiful week and that you guys are ready for an awesome session today. So, I want to start it off by telling a story of how we wasted probably little over $1 million at Key Glee by having the wrong people in the wrong seats. And the reason for that is, when you're building a company and you are learning how to, assess people's strengths and people's weaknesses and really trying to get the most out of the people that you're working with, it's incredibly important to make sure that you're putting people through the right type of format so that you can actually gain some knowledge about what's going on in their about what's going on with their I apologize, and what's going on with their skill sets. And so for me, one of the most important things is looking at where can I accentuate myself and where can I develop myself. And I think one of the, I guess, biggest parts of being a leader and working in an organization is understanding that, right? And knowing who to put in what seat. Now, when we first started Key Glee, we were growing so rapidly that we were just putting whoever we could, wherever we could. We would find good people, which was great. And one of the things that you'll hear Pace and others who have ever visited my organization say is that we have really high quality people. We have one of the most incredible cultures at Key Glee that I've ever seen, outside of, Grant Cardone's 10X culture, which is also very good. I am proud of what we've been able to establish at that company. But we definitely had some musical chairs going on, to say that in the kindest way possible. And so I wanted to introduce you guys to a very special friend of mine who is an expert at understanding what your strengths are and helping you really lean into those so that when you are deciding what you want to do with your life and you're looking at a career, or if you're looking at what your purpose is or what you are trying to do at your job, that you are leaning in, that you're actually really working to your strengths. And I think when we are able to do that, we get more fulfillment out of our jobs. We get more fulfillment out of our days because we are good at what we're doing. And also, if we're being forced to do things that we're not good at, like for instance, Yvette's not really good at technology. And so I'm having her run this live stream and she's nervous as heck. So that's one of those things, right? And if we could all just give her some love, because I know she's working super hard and she's doing everything that she can to be as awesome as she can be on my team. So let's give Yvette some love because she absolutely deserves it. But I want to bring up Rosie Noel. Rosie, if you're backstage, please come up. Hi, friend.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm
Hi,
so
everybody.
happy to have you here. So, thank you so much for all that you have helped me with in really leaning into my strengths and understanding where I have work to do. Now, for those of you who know me, I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to wanting to develop my weaknesses. I'm one of those people that like show it to me, show me where I have an opportunity to develop, show me where I have a weakness, show me where I can do work. Because in all honesty, I don't want to just be that guy that's like, oh, these are the things I'm good at, and I'm not gonna. It's like a guy who goes to the gym and only does upper body, right? You got to work on your legs. Um, Otherwise, you look funny and are not, and you're not like a whole rounded person. Now, I wanted to actually bring up the test that you gave me, which was actually, if you could, can you please help us understand the specific strengths test that you put me through so that people can understand what we're talking about?
Yeah, of course. And it's funny because as you were talking, I have your strengths up on the screen. And the more I'm around
Are you able
people and
to
the more,
share it? Does
yeah. Do you mind
Yeah,
if
can
I do
you?
that?
I would love for you to share it.
Yeah.
Yvette, does she have permission on that? Can you, if not, can you help her or can you just press present there and put it up?
Yeah, I'm able to present. Let me just a moment. Okay, I think I got it.
Beautiful.
Can you tell me if you can see it? Oh yeah, we have to just add it to the stage, right?
Yep.
There
There
we
we go.
go.
All right.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Well, first, before it's up on the screen now, so people can look at it and they can know all about me. But tell us a little bit about you, right? How did you even get into this work? Before we dive into me, I want to know more about you.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I call myself a strengths coach now, which I still need to come up with a better way to describe myself because half the time people think I'm like a physical trainer. But I am a physical trainer for the mind, I guess. So I right now for the last year have been focusing on coaching people on their strengths. So helping them understand their natural talents and abilities, like you said, Jamil, and helping them learn how to take the things they naturally do and turn them into strengths and say, okay, I'm already naturally doing these things. How do I use them to my advantage? And formerly, I was an executive coach. So I've always used this in my coaching career. Since I've started working with entrepreneurs, I've really been leaning into the strengths based approach because I think it's so empowering. And I think part of being an entrepreneur is you wear a lot of hats. And I think this can help you figure out which are the right hats to wear, especially when you don't have the luxury of having a large team. And when you do, making sure everybody's wearing the right hats. So that's a little bit about me. Um, and as I was saying that, it made me think of, can I tell a quick story that I think is really helpful about Clifton
Please.
Strengths?
Yeah.
Um, so it's a story somebody reminded me of it the other day and I forgot about it because it's been a while since I read this book about Clifton Strengths. So what I'm sharing here is Jamil's assessment results from taking his 34 Clifton Strengths report. Clifton Strengths was created by Gallup. A lot of people know Gallup because of their global polls and surveys. And I love this assessment in particular. I've worked with a lot of them in the corporate space. I love this one in particular because it's very research based and it's backed by Gallup, who's a large management consulting firm. And in their book that they wrote about strengths, they told this story, and I think it's so good. When I was reminded of it the other day, it was like, huh. Um, so they were talking about Tiger Woods and how he was like, I need to practice. Oh my God, I'm going to butcher this because I don't know anything about golf. I need to practice getting out of the sand traps, right? Like, I need to figure out how to get out of that. So, like, I want to start pouring my time and energy into figuring out how to getting out of the sand traps.
Yeah. I think that's
And
chipping.
what's that?
Chipping.
Chipping. Okay. He needed to practice chipping. And his coach or whatever, like the person that he worked with was like, no, absolutely not. We need to focus on your game so that you don't get into the sand traps to begin with. Like, let's focus on honing those skills and the things that you're already doing really well and take them to the next level. Let's not, if you're not good at getting out of this, if you're not good at chipping today, let's not take you from bad to okay. Let's go from good to great. And that's what I love about Clifton Strengths. So when I was reminded of that story, I was like, oh, that's just so good. So I feel like so much of our time we spend saying, oh, okay, I'm really bad at this thing. How do I get better at it? And it's like, it's Clifton Strengths. It's not like a cop out to say, no, you don't have to, oh, sorry, like you never have to figure out how to get out of a sand trap. No, but it's saying that's not, if he was already not good at it, that was not his like area of greatest opportunity for growth. It was, how do you focus on what you're already doing well and avoid even getting into that situation in the first place? So that's what I love about strengths. And even right, yours, as we've talked about yours, Jamil, I think that your strengths speak to that as well.
Would you say then that it's actually counterintuitive for me then to want to like be focused on my weaknesses and that I should do more of leaning into my strengths? And I'd be honest with me here because I'm happy to take the no. What would you say would be a better way for me to address all the things that make up me?
Yeah. So it's with the language with Clifton Strengths is that your weaknesses can show up anywhere, and weaknesses are just something that get in the way of your success. And so the area again of greatest opportunity is to, like, when you're looking at the assessment, it says these are the things you do think and feel the most of naturally. You don't have to try to be a strategic person, you just are. Right. And at the bottom of your report, your number 34, which fun fact, I just think this is hilarious that both Vina and Pace have the same number 34 as you, deliberative, which is people that
Okay.
are high deliberative take a lot of thought and care. They like to deliberate, take it easy, right? It makes sense that you're like, no, we don't need to think about this. Like, let's just go. But you're high strategic, right? You're still intentional about what you do, but you don't need that time to deliberate. And so working from your weakness, from your strengths at the bottom, might be like, okay, there are certain situations where I need to deliberate more, and it's getting in my way when I don't.
Mm.
So, but the goal is not to say, okay, well, if this is getting my way, how do I be like a person that's high deliberative? It's like, no, okay, when I look at like my top 10, how do I use my strategic more when I'm trying to deliberate? How do I use my developer or my maximizer when I'm in situations where I have to deliberate? So it's like, just use what you have up high to get at the things that get in your way. So that goes back. It's like the Tiger Woods story, right? It's not like you have to it's just don't pour your energy into the thing you're already not good at. It's like, use what you have and use them in different creative ways.
Wow. Okay. Well, it makes sense. And I love that you shared that story about Tiger Woods because I think Tiger Woods is awesome, and he was the greatest golfer of all time, in my opinion. But he also, as you can see from his career, he the top of his game, and so I'm continuously wanting to elevate and do better for myself and my community, my family, all of the things. And so let's dive into these. Let's dive into
Yeah.
these strengths and help. And guys, I have about 90 of you here on YouTube that have joined us. Thank you guys for showing up. But only 29 of you have taken the time to move your finger the couple of inches that it takes to hit the like button. And if you do that, then more people will be here because YouTube's algorithm will let people know that, hey, people like what's going on here. So love me, love Rosie, and go hit that like button. Now let's dive into these strengths, if you will.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. Well, it's just so funny because as you were talking, like I do this anytime I have somebody's results, if I've coached with them once and I'm around them in other capacities, right? If I coach somebody I have friends with, or just as somebody that I have a working relationship with, anytime they talk, I'm like, oh, that's Jamil's competition coming out, right? I want to be the best. Maximizer is like, high quality and excellence is really important to people that are high maximizer themes. And then these are the two themes that are focused on the best. Maximizer is like the best quality, deliver the quality of excellence. So excellence and quality. Competition is I want to be the best, right? I want to show up as my best for my community. I want to help my community win. The people that I train or develop, I want them to be the best. I want to win. I want other people around me to win. And I've heard you talk about that. So you have kind of two themes that are focused around being the best up high. One is the best relative to others, right? This is like, I want us to be the best community. I want my people to be the best versions of themselves. And that's kind of where maximizer and developer even comes in, where it's like, I want to help develop people to be the best and to be the best versions of themselves. So that's just kind of cool. See, people that are high developer like you, Jamil, are, and I've seen this in Pace as well. They just get really they see potential in other people and they get invested in developing and growing that potential. And so I've seen that in you and how you just help support people in the real estate space and beyond, right? In the mindset space as well. And I think it's really cool. I think it's really unique because people that are high developer are just really gifted at that, like the patience and the like excitement that they see about what somebody else can achieve and the willingness to help them achieve it.
Amazing. Wow. All right. So with respect to, and it's funny, like, would you say my number one strength in is strategy?
So yes, what's interesting is your number one strength is strategic. Yes, but you lead with these relationship building blue themes. So that means this is what you do the most of. Your number one's what you do the most of, but your blue are the most intense. So
Mm,
you're the most intense around building relationships, but strategic, you pull on the most. It's your most frequent.
wow. You know, it's funny. I spent a couple of weeks with a friend when I went to Burning Man. We talked a little bit about it. And she said to me that when I watched you, she watched me in a room where I didn't know people. She said, I could see that you play, she called it Dumbelina. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, you sit there and you're sussing out the entire room. You're
Mm,
taking in who's who you might resonate with, who you don't resonate with, who you want to maybe be move closer towards, who you don't want to be around. She's like, and I could see yet when it
mm,
came time for you to engage, you played the duck. Like you were being like, oh, I really don't know what's going on here, when you very clearly understood what the hell was happening. And I hadn't quite articulated that before, ever. I didn't really say to people, this is how I interact or this is how I enter a room. I've always just kind of felt it as an energy more than it be like, my mind moving around like that. I just sort of
mm,
feel out who I think is more like me, and I gravitate towards that, and I move away from things that are a little repulsive to me, right? And
mm,
so, um, but it's an interesting thing, and I guess that's strategic because I'm able to really see, okay, here, this is where I could fit in, and if I can fit in here, then I can elevate in that specific situation. So it allows me to be in spots and actually rise very quickly in whatever situation I'm in because I see that and I can sense that. Um, so that's really cool that they pulled that out. So people are asking, how do they take this test? And we'll give that. We're gonna help you guys get into Rosie's world here towards the end. But so guys, understand that I will absolutely connect you guys with her because I think this is really important. If I For whoever's tuned in to us, I want to get a little bit of participation from you guys. Where now that you guys see these 34 words, what would you think? I want you guys to take a little test here right now. What would you think your number one strength is from the 34 that are there? I want you guys to just take a moment and I want you to write that in the comments. Tell me where you think your number one quality is. And I want you to write that down in the comments and then also write it down on a piece of paper because when you take Rosie's test, we're going to have an idea of how aware you are of your strengths. I'm not saying this in a bad way, but like sometimes we don't know. Like I didn't know strategic would have been my number one. I would have thought, here's what's really interesting. They got disciplined down at 27. I think I'm a disciplined MFer. I would have probably put discipline up at number one. Meanwhile, the strength says, nah, I mean, but that at the same time, I'm disciplined now, but I haven't been disciplined my entire life. I mean, a couple of years ago I was a whole 80, 90 pounds heavier than I am now, and
mm,
so obviously I lacked in some discipline for some time, but this is incredible. So yeah, we've got some people saying empathy, love that. I would say that if Yvette took this test, and I'm going to actually have her do this, I think Yvette is a very empathetic person. I think
mm,
that's why she does a phenomenal job in her role because she really does care about the people she's talking to. She cares about the team and people who interact with her for my world. They always comment on how awesome Yvette is and how she's done such a great job and she's doing such a great job. And I think it's because she can empathize. She can really put herself in the shoes of other people. But I'd be interested to see what comes up. So we've got some people here: positive, analytical, um, harmonious. I like that, Brian. Okay, so harmony is a really good one. That's somebody that likes the whole group kind of coalescing and being together in a nice flow state, I would imagine, right?
yep, you got it. Um,
Amazing.
I just have to comment. And when you said for people to guess, I was like, I bet a bunch of people are going to guess empathy. That's one that I was shocked at it the first time. It's my number 16. And I was like, what? How can I be a coach if my number 16 is empathy? Um, but a lot of people, especially in like corporate spaces, which obviously isn't a lot of people here, but it's not uncommon for it to be low. And a lot of times people think it's high because it's a think that they have it high. So don't be surprised if when you take it, your empathy isn't where you thought it would be, just because it doesn't mean you're not an empathetic person. But you kind of talked about it when you said with your guests around Yvette's strengths is somebody that leads with empathy, their first thought is, what would I want if I was in somebody else's shoes? It's their first thought, right? Like they can't help but think that way. Versus, right, I lead with green strategic thinking. So my first thought is like, what's the right plan or what's the right strategy so that I can help this person, right? It's like, how can I come up with the best ideas or whatever the case may be? So a lot of times, empathy is always where it's placed. That's like the number one question I get is, why isn't my empathy higher? So I wasn't surprised to see that from everybody.
Can I ask what the hell a woo is?
Yes. Ooh, I was looking at where your woo is. Your woo is in your bottom 10. Okay. So woo stands for win others over. And so usually they're people that actually how you described yourself as a Dumbelina. I like that phrase. They're people that when they walk into a room, if you're high woo, you want to talk to everybody. You want to make a bunch of really fast, quick connections. Usually they're comfortable with small talk. They're going to chit chat.
Pace is woo, because Pace is a woo woo. He's super woo. He gets into a room and he's like, pop, 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 pop. He's like talking to everybody, and it's like there's 6 of him. Meanwhile, like I go into a room and I'm like, all right, I only have the energy to talk to 3 people. So who are going to be the most like important, most effective 3 conversations that I'm going to have in this room, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to have them. And not that because I'm like judgmental or anything like that. It's just and most people don't know this about me, but I'm an introvert. I'm actually like an extroverted introvert, as if like how stinking weird that sounds, but I definitely have, my energy gets drained. I need to detach and like kind of reset and go and get back into my little cocoon and juice myself back up. Whereas, my homie Pace is not like that, right? He's the opposite. He juices himself up with others all the time, right? Whereas I need to kind of disappear and like Homer Simpson go into the bushes, and so like that's just how I am. But so winning others over, okay, I love that. Okay, we'll keep. What else? What else can we learn here?
Okay, so there's just a couple other things to say about your theme specifically. It's just so funny. Again, when you were talking, some of the things, what else you said, like you go into a room, right? Yes, you don't want to talk to everybody. Usually people that want to talk to everybody are people that are high woo or people that are high includer. And your themes are very like people that are high intellection. Especially if you're high intellection, low woo, you don't like small talk. You want to go talk and have intentional conversations. Usually people that are high intellection and you're high connectedness to want to have deeper conversations. You even said like, right, what are the best possible like relationships or people that I can invest into to have a high quality conversation or a connected conversation. And so I always think of like I was thinking about you in this before this call, where you are intellection is like depth of thought. So you like to muse on things, right? You like to, when I was asking you, how do you decide what to talk about from week to week? You're like, oh, just something that I've learned or that I've read or right, like gone deeply into. So people that are high intellection like to have deep thought and talk about things that are deep. People that are high connectedness are like deeply connected spiritually, like to things that are greater than themselves. So there's like depth of thought and depth of like connection beyond themselves. And so it just kind of, even the way that you network and when you're in rooms full of people, it's like you're strategic, but because you lead with these relationship building, there's your most intense themes are blue. That tells me your first thought is around people, but you're strategic about your approach with people, right? You want to maximize your relationships and be intentional about the ones that you cultivate and build relationships that are connected and where you have the opportunities to have deeper conversations. So all of it, like all the themes exist independently, but the way it's like they work together in very distinct ways, which is cool about, again, what I just hear the more that I hear you talk.
Well, I appreciate that. And, thank you for helping me understand it, because, At the end of the day, we tend to criticize ourselves for some of the things that are characteristics and personality, because that's just sort of how we've been programmed. We're always told when we're young, the thing that you do the most is probably the thing that's annoying somebody in your household, and so they will tell you, don't do that, stop that, da da da. They try to dim you, and people
Yeah.
around you in the world will try to dim you, especially if people get threatened by specific attributes that you have, right? If you've got some positive attributes around, and then people can see that, but then that makes them feel inferior or a little threatened by what you're putting out, they'll find ways to gaslight or take that down or dull you there, because that will give you an unfair advantage over them.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in so many friendships and so many relationships. I see that in romantic relationships as well, right? Whereas you've got a possessive spouse or a possessive, individual in the relationship, and they don't want others to connect to their person.
Mhm.
And so they will purposely dull that, or they will diminish that in their partner, so that won't be an attractive quality to a potential threat. And I want you guys to be aware of this kind of thing, because see it in the relationships that you guys have, see it in the business partnerships that you guys have, see it in how you relate to yourself, because that's a relationship, I think, that's incredibly important, right? And do it in such a way that when you're in that type of scenario, you're like, okay, look, I am a positive person, I am a strategic person, I'm a relationship builder, and I know that I'm good at activating, right? So like when Rosie was telling me about what an activator is, that's somebody who will do what they can to pull the best out of somebody. You activate someone. You bring someone to life. And I've always felt like I have that capacity to almost reanimate
Mhm.
someone's entire personality if they're in a low spot, right? I can bring their kind of light out so that they can feel better. And I love doing that. To me, that's one of the things I feel God gave me as a gift. And it's supposed to be to bring out love out of people, to bring out self-love out of people, to bring out self-admiration out of people, so that they can look at themselves in the mirror and say, I'm a badass, right? And I'm great at these things. And so, I want this for all of you, because you obviously are in my world because you're an entrepreneur. You are doing everything you can to seek financial independence and freedom. Yet you come to these Sunday calls because you, like me, believe that success is an inside job. It's not going to be something that we're going to get from out here. And when we understand this strengths test, right, I can see the parts of me inside of me that are really good and that are powerful, and then I can add gas to that. I can add more to that, and that'll help me create more relationships. It'll help me make more money. It'll help me activate more people and develop them better. But this is all really good. Rosie, if you could, I want to ask, for people that are entrepreneurs looking at this, what would you say would be some of the benefits that they'll gain from putting themselves in the position to know these things about their personality and their characteristics?
Yeah. A lot of things. Usually it's very eye-opening, and you hit on one of them when you were describing it, which is it it allows a different lens for you to just embrace who you are, and whether it's something you're struggling with or not, it still is going to shine a light on things you didn't realize were there. And if you're a newer entrepreneur, or you're investing in something that is new, as entrepreneurs do, right? You conquer one mountain and you're on to the next one. It's very helpful. I think it's very foundational to say, okay, when I am struggling with something, trying something new, working toward a goal, it says like this is these top 10, these are like my foundation. This is who I am. And these are all of the tools that I need to do everything I need to do. I just have to be intentional about how I use them.
Mm,
And so it helps shine a light. And I'll use you as an example of like, okay, so You take your assessment, you say, wow, okay, I have 3 colors. I'm Jamil, and I have no purple colors. My first purple shows up at 16. Does
Wow.
that mean, Jamil, you never have to execute in your life ever? No, of course not. Right? It just means like, okay, I need to be really intentional. If I'm an entrepreneur and I'm wearing a lot of hats and I have to execute, I have to be really strategic and intentional about how I'm going to get things done, because you don't have any of these purple natural integrating. The purple themes are most typically integrating type of
Yeah.
themes.
So now I'm just starting to put this all together. Okay. So the green on the right, I'm sorry, help me understand, help me connect the colors and the numbers.
Yeah. So there's these 34 themes, and then there's all 34 the themes are talents. So those are the 34 names that you have. So there's 34 talents, and they're rank ordered from 1 to 34. 1 you do the most, 34 you do the least.
Hmm.
Each of the 34 themes are grouped into these 4 different domains. So the purple themes, like your first purple one is achiever, are executing. Somebody that leads with executing, if they like you lead with relationship building, that's your most intense. Somebody that leads with executing, their first thought when they leave a conversation or go to I don't even build a new relationship, their first thought is, okay, what needs to happen next? Like the
But
executing, the integration mind.
that's pace thing.
Uh, so
He,
Pace he is high achiever, actually. It's in his top 10. He's
okay.
also high activator like you. It's his number 1. So he's like, let's go. But he doesn't necessarily want to be the one. He can execute, but he doesn't necessarily be the one that wants to finish it. He can start it, which is activator. And that's
Hmm.
also you. He can start it. Think of executing like it's not necessarily, it is about getting started, but it's about like the like orange moves the fastest. So they're like, let's go fast, more is more. Purple's the second fastest, but it's like pace. A lot of what he achieves is through people. And same with you, your relationship building. The blue and the orange are both people themes. Purple is executing. That's like more like COO integrator themes. We're like, okay, now I need to put my head down and do the work.
So my business partner Hunter is, I always laugh about him because I still can't get him on the phone. So one of the things that happens is, I'll call him and he'll immediately hit ignore, and then he'll send me a text message and say, "What's up?" That's just what he does. He's like, "I don't want to talk." In fact, him and I did we probably did about 4 or 5 deals together, never spoke on the phone. He did his first 50 wholesale deals without ever having to talk to a person.
Mm.
He did it all through like systems, technology, and being high at execution. My sister, she's an executor like that,
Mm.
and that's why her and I have had such a beautiful relationship, because I'm the visionary, I'm the dreamer, I'm the one who's like, okay, these are the big ideas, these are the big things that we want to do in the world. And then she's going to chop it up into little pieces and say, okay, here's how we're going to get them done. This is the first thing we need to do. And then the first things that we need to do, these are the steps that are going to be required in them. And so she's just like whap, 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 whap. And then at the end of it, it's like, wow, it's done. Right. And then I get the credit for it, which is, probably a little crappy of me. But that's, and there's parts of her where she's like, doesn't even want it. She doesn't care to have the credit for it. She's just like, no, I enjoy the doing. And
Yeah.
you enjoy the sharing, you enjoy the promotion of it, the other aspects of that, and that's why we make a great counterpart. And so I think that there's something really important about knowing this about yourself, because again, so many times you meet people and they're like, man, I just, like, for instance, we hear Peggy in the comments right now. She's like, oh my God, I've been working so hard on my weaknesses. And she's just been like focused on that. Like I had said earlier, one of the reasons I even went to Burning Man was so that I could go and test myself and put myself in under such stress that I would unravel. And I needed to see that unraveling so that I could look inside the wrap, right? And like, okay, what are the ingredients here and what don't I need anymore? And there were parts of there, like grief, for instance, right? I was holding on to some grief that I hadn't really processed, and going to Burning Man gave me the opportunity to actually let that grief have its day. And I was able to kind of metabolize it, deal with it, and now since then it's not holding me back any longer. It's not, I don't have this like underlying kind of sadness in my overall, and I'm really good at hiding it, right? That's one of the things that I think, from again, putting myself in that stressful situation so I could unravel, because I'm so good at being adaptable that I'm like, I'm not even going to be able to see my weaknesses, because I'm going to pivot. I'm going to move. I'm going to sidestep that, and I'm just going to push forward. And so it's an interesting dichotomy of, like, really wanting to step in, but then also having to understand. And we heard earlier from Rosie, that quote of Tiger Woods saying, well, his coach saying, no, you don't need to practice getting out of the sand trap. What you really need to do is practice not getting into the sand trap, right? So do your best to not put yourself in those situations, which is actually the most appropriate way to do it. Let's not plan for the failure. Let's plan for our success. Let's just get better at succeeding instead of getting better at getting out of failure, right? Such an interesting loop we can put ourselves in. What else do you see here, Rosie, that would be an interesting thing for me to lean more into, and maybe some things to cut out?
Yeah. Okay. So, I can't help myself but ask a question. What do you mean
Yeah.
when you say some things to cut out? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, these are all positive things, right? So I'm not looking at a word. There's nothing here like, eats potato chips while he's sleeping. That happens to me sometimes. I've been known to sleep eat, which is terrible, because like I don't even get to enjoy the food that I'm eating while I'm asleep. I just wake up with crumbs everywhere, and it's not okay, right? Especially when you've eaten chocolate in your bed.
Hopefully you're alone when that's happening, Jamil.
I am. But what's really bad is I was staying in a hotel, and I fell asleep eating chocolate, and it looked like I pooped in the bed.
Yeah.
And so, I left $20 there for housekeeping. I always tip them, but I had to leave that there, and I had to leave a note explaining that this is not feces. This is just chocolate, and if you don't believe me, smell it.
I'm sure that they burned the mattress after, or they burned the sheets after that.
I was just worried that they were gonna throw the stuff out, but it was just chocolate. It was just chocolate. But it's like one of those things. Anyhow, I don't even know how I got onto that subject, but yeah, thinking about that from that perspective, like, okay, so deliberative, restorative, analytical, and context, right? So, I mean, I do like learning, but I only like learning things I'm interested in.
Yeah.
If I'm not interested in something, I'm like, ugh, please don't make me do this.
Yeah.
I don't want to have conversations about insurance.
Yeah.
I have no desire to do that, right? But there's some people who just want to talk about insurance all day long.
Yeah. I was an actuary once upon a time. So I worked in insurance, and I used to talk about it all day long, and I hated it. And so, okay, it's funny that you said that, because you made some comment about people that are high restorative. So strategic and restorative are both problem-solving themes. Restorative usually I see a lot of engineers that are high restorative. They want to get their hands in and dig into the problem.
Okay.
And versus strategic is like, I want to create the solution, and I'm going to come up with all of the possible scenarios, but I don't actually want to go and execute on the solution. I just want to come up with the plan. And so that makes sense in all of what you said, but you made a comment where you're like, I don't, weren't your exact words, but you were like, I usually just go, like, I'm not necessarily thinking about what are my weaknesses that I need to fix. Usually people that are high restorative they're like, let's get down to the root cause. They're usually hard on themselves because they're really good at fixing things, and they usually want to fix themselves. So, so for you, just because it's at the bottom does not automatically mean it gets in your way. Any of the themes can get in your way. So think about So yes, it's like with the report, you look at what's at the bottom. Is having low learner getting in your way? It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like you're curious about things when you need to be, you're not when you don't. But maybe having high activators, this is just an example. Maybe just because it's your number 3 doesn't automatically mean it's a strength. If you are somebody that's starting more projects than you can finish and you have 100 open projects and none of them go to completion, that's not your activator showing up as a strength. That's your activator showing up as a weakness. Just
Ooh.
because you activate a lot does not always mean
Oh, so
it's
some of your
getting you results.
strengths. You just blew my mind, Rosie. So some of these strengths can actually show up as being detrimental to yourself. Give
Yes.
me an example. You just gave us one, but give me another example of how that could be.
Yes. And just to reiterate, because this is probably one of the most confusing things about CliftonStrengths. Your number 1 is not automatically a strength. What's up high are not automatically strengths. They're the things you do, think, and feel the most of. The goal is to turn them into strengths. But you just because you do think and feel it a lot could mean you do think and feel it a lot and it works against you, right? So
Mm.
the activator was an example. Let's see another example. This probably doesn't happen with you that much. Also, I'll say for if you're high strategic without high positivity, a weakness of strategic can be they're so good at solving for problems that haven't happened yet that they can come off as negative. Like you're high positivity, so that may not happen with you, but high strategic can be like, well, have you thought about this or what about that? Or this, like this could go wrong in all of these ways and we need to be thinking about it. Um, so that may not happen with you as much because of your high positivity to balance it. But high developer, what can happen with high developer, and I'm guessing this may happen with you because of some of your other themes, is they can want to invest in other people so much, it can almost be to their detriment. Like you can want more for somebody than they want for themselves. So you pour into them because you want it for them. And then it's a weakness if it's like draining you and you're like so invested and it's not going anywhere, or you're pouring into them, but they don't actually care. So that's an example of like developer can show up as a weakness in that way sometimes.
Man, this is so interesting because look, as a coach, right? I've had this show up where I'm talking to somebody and I really want them to succeed and I'm and I can tell that I'm actually wanting it more for them than they want it for themselves, and it drives me effing crazy because I'm like, what are we doing here? Like I don't want you to be wasting your money hiring me to do the job, but then I've shown up. Where are you?
Yeah.
And that is hard. That is a hard thing to take for me, for a person like me. And then I continue wasting time, or I continue doubling down, or I think it's a defect in me. Like I should have been doing something different to make that person want it for themselves. And that's, obviously not the way you're supposed to go about it. And so this is super helpful. So, there's some common themes in entrepreneurship that I think I'd like to address and see if CliftonStrengths could potentially be helpful in people analyzing this and then moving forward to developing and working on it. So, analysis paralysis is something that is a real struggle for entrepreneurs. Shiny object syndrome, another real struggle for entrepreneurs. For in case you're unaware of what these things mean, shiny object is like in real estate, it could be really easy to do. You're constantly looking at, oh, this is a neat software. Oh, that is a neat thing. Oh, I want to do this now. Oh, I want to do this now. Oh, I want to do that now. Because there's so many different ways to invest and make money in real estate. It's almost overwhelming because you can get into co-living, you can get into fixing and flipping, you can get into wholesaling, you can get into buy and holding, you can get into syndications, you can get into multifamily, you can get into raising capital, and it goes on and 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 on, right? And so as somebody who is working on that with people, what would you say someone who is stuck in analysis paralysis or gets shiny object syndrome, what could be some techniques that they could do to move themselves out of those situations?
Yeah. That's a great question. And I always have to challenge myself with these questions because My number 4 CliftonStrengths theme is individualization. So I want to customize everything. I'm like, well, I could say it for you, but it might not apply to everybody. But
Which is fair. So I do want to say, guys, that let's give her the benefit of that, in that this is more of an individuation thing. So I don't want you to try to make something broad that's not meant to be broad. But if we're talking about me, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's just say I get a shiny object and I'm like, ooh, I want to learn this thing now. So
Yeah.
what would be a way through?
Yeah. And I can, so I'll answer that. And I can't say, like, generally speaking, right, like, and even so you said analysis paralysis, shiny object syndrome, even perfectionism kind of, I think, fills in there in some of the analysis paralysis. So a lot of time, if you deal with analysis paralysis a lot, you probably have a lot of green themes. And a way to move out of analysis paralysis, it's always like your area, this back to the Tiger Woods example, your area of greatest opportunity is to work from your top 10. So the tools that I always call these the tools in your toolbox. What's at the bottom are not tools in your toolbox. So don't use them, borrow them, aka use a friend who has it, but don't try to use tools that you don't have. So if you're getting stuck in analysis paralysis, you're getting lost in your thoughts. It's like, look at your other, like, first one is like, look at your other non-green themes. So for you, Jamil, it would be activator. Use your activator to say, like, okay, I'm going to get started on, just had an idea. I don't know if it's the right idea. I want to continue to ideate on it or intellect on it, but I'm just going to get started right now. Right. Or it can be, okay, I am going to connect with another person on this idea, and maybe they're going to help push me into getting it started if I don't have high activator. So it's like, pull on some of your other themes in different ways. And even if it's like, I'll use futuristic because
Well,
most
I gotta say,
entrepreneurs are high futuristic. Yeah.
Back to the Future 2 is my all-time favorite movie. So it makes sense that futuristic is on my top 10. I'm just saying.
I think that was a mom joke, just by the way, in case
Was
you were
it?
wondering what. Yeah. Yeah, I
It's
think it
such a
was.
good movie.
Yeah,
Like,
it
don't
is.
you? And not just part 2, like part 3 when they're cowboys, man. Part 1 was
Yeah.
cool, but it was weird that he kissed his mom. But like, but Back to the Future 2, the hoverboard and those Nikes. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. And it's
Yeah.
the greatest movie of all time.
Yeah. What year was that they were, like, going into?
I think it was 2000 something.
It was like 2020 or something. I'm sure somebody
Yeah.
here knows better than me. It was a yes. Um,
If you know what year they went to, let us know. Because
yeah,
there's still no flying cars. I mean, we're getting pretty close. 2018, Brian
2018.
said. 2018.
Okay.
Whoa, crazy.
Damn, it does not look like what Biff thought it was gonna look like.
No, no.
Okay, but futuristic, most I'm always, like, reluctant to say this. If you don't have this, doesn't mean you're not, and you can't be an entrepreneur. But most entrepreneurs are high futuristic in their top 15. Um, and that one can be a powerful one to get you. It can get you into analysis paralysis, but it can also get you out because um October 24th, very specific
October
time.
24th, 2015 apparently was what it
2015.
was.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow. Okay, that was a long time ago.
2015 or 2018. Then maybe there were two versions.
Yeah. Oh,
I don't know. I feel like I for some reason I trust 2018. Jason
yes,
said it was
2018 feels really good to me too.
yeah, Siri said 2015, but Siri's dumb.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, I don't know who's worse, her or Alexa.
Alexa's she gets around.
I know. But you got to be nice to her. I used to kind of be mean to her sometimes. Like, I would be like, "Oh my god, shut the hell up!" But then I'd be like, "What?" Well, A, I can't do that around my kids because I don't want them to see me being disrespectful to somebody. B, they might kill me one day, so I gotta be careful.
That's great.
But so futuristic. A lot of entrepreneurs are high futuristic because it's like they can see what's possible and they get excited about that. And so it's like using if you're getting shiny object syndrome or you're getting analysis paralysis and you are high futuristic, because chances are that you are, if you're an entrepreneur, it's like, okay, remind yourself of what you see as being possible for you, for your family, for your business, and use that to like recalibrate and either get yourself back on track if you've got shiny object syndrome. If you're stuck in analysis paralysis, it's like, okay, what's the next thing that I can move me one step closer to that vision that I have? So it's use what you have to help move you forward. There's no perfect formula, but what you have in your top 10, there's always ways to use them in different ways to help get you out of wherever you got stuck.
Can we do this to our kids?
Yes.
Is it
Yes, you
ethical?
can.
And then also, is it helpful? Like, and for them to know, is this something that's like good for all ages?
Yeah, great question. So the Gallup has an assessment called Strengths Explorer for kids six to 10. Did I get that right? 6 to 10. Yes. Um and or maybe it's 10. I'm losing my mind right now. I think it's 6 to 10, but Strengths Explorer for young kids. And then when you hit 15, you can take the Clifton this assessment. So, and they have one for students also. And so it's really helpful for kids that are like high school age or college age, because it says these are your top strengths, but here's how you use your strategic as a student. Here's how you use your positivity as a student to see success. So they have one for sales, etc. But yes, for kids, my youngest kid, my kids are about to be 3 and 5, so we have not introduced it yet, but I can promise you I definitely will be. And I can already start to see what some of their strengths are. Like I'm like, oh, my 3-year-old is empathy, and my 5-year-old is probably low positivity. God bless his soul. So like you can already start to like see some of the traits come through. Um,
Understood. Yeah. Well, I think like you basically know who somebody's going to be by how they are as a baby.
I mean, I guess I would ask you that because for in all of the research that Gallup's done, and this is my personal experience and all of my coaching, most people are like, yes, I can think back to I've always been like this. Like
Mhm.
I can do that for myself with my themes. I'd be curious if you feel like when you think back, have you always been some of these things that we've talked about, like high
Every
positivity,
one of them,
etc. Yeah.
every single one of them. Um, and strategy was how I kept myself from getting beat up every day. I had like
Mm.
terrible bullies growing up. One of whom is actually in prison now for murder and torture. So you can just understand like the level of craziness that I had to grow up around. But so strategy was always important for me because it was a survival technique, right? I
Yeah.
had to survive, and so it was high up there for me to be able to think strategically. This is great. Like, a part of me wants to be like, well, I'm kind of in the dating scene. So like, maybe I should get like potential dates. Actually, I have this in that new analogy that I think if like, in order for me to date you, I need to see the three following things. I need to look in your car when you're not expecting it. I need to know if you make your bed in the morning and what your credit score is.
Those are oddly specific things.
Yes.
I can understand the logic behind all of them though.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's really funny you say that, and I actually had that thought before coming on this call, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder if Jamil's gonna ask about dating because I get this question a lot with the strengths." And so what I always say with Clifton Strengths, and this is true for dating, this is true for business, any kind of partnership, right? An intimate one or otherwise, is you don't want to enter in to say, okay, well, I'm Jamil and I have no purple. So, like, my perfect person would have purples. No, like, it's not quite that simple. Usually, I do see a yin and a yang. If you think of like Jerry and Anne Marie, I've went through their strengths, but they have a yin and a yang. Pace and Laura do. Vina and her husband Vamsine. Like, I definitely see that, like, some sort of like complementary strengths happening. I would also say I've seen a lot of couples that are not that are have a lot of similar themes, and I would say like it's kind of to the point that you made. It's like it is more important to be aligned on things like values as a foundation, similar goals and things you want to get out of life. And I feel like if you can have aligned Clifton strengths, it's like the icing on the cake because you can both pull on different sets of things. My husband and I are very, very different in certain ways, but very similar in others. And so I would say for you, it's more just, it's like being mindful going into like the dating scene, almost of like what you bring to the table, that you're not going to be that person that's going to get energy from getting things done in the relationship. So if
Mm,
you're going in to date somebody else and right, they are also somebody that does not like to get things done, you have to figure out together as a couple, okay, does that get, and does, how do we solve from then what we have when we have to get things done as a couple? Or if she loves to get things done, but she doesn't want to have deep conversations, she's low intellection. What are you going to do if you can't have deep conversations that you love to have? Right? Like that might be a deal breaker for you, but I don't think you need a CliftonStrengths report to tell you that. So probably not the right way to sell CliftonStrengths, but I just think from a dating perspective, it's helpful information, but I don't think it's going to tell you whether you should date somebody or not. It might tell you the things you should dig into more though.
I love that. I love that. So, Rosie, we've got a lot of people here, and all of them are super excited to see what their strengths are, and I would imagine develop themselves and work with you. So, how does that work? What would be a good way for somebody to get more information about the Clifton Strengths test and potentially learning more about your situation and how they can work with you to develop themselves?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, there's several ways. The easiest way to get started is to take the assessment. And I think I saw in the chat a couple people asked. So just to clarify, I always recommend taking the Clifton Strengths 34 report. It's $60 and it's better than taking the top 5 report because the top 5 only tells you what your top 5 themes are, and it's more expensive to upgrade. It's just better to start with the 34 report. You only take it one time. So, right, it's just an investment you make once. You never take the assessment again. And there's so much you can do once you have it. The 34 report's really robust. So I recommend getting started there. And you can order the assessment through my website. It's I'll drop the link, and I try dropping it early, but it's rosienoel.com/order. So
Okay. So we'll put that in there. And then also, what about working with you? Because I've really enjoyed working with you, and I know that there's going to be so many people out there who would really benefit from having a little Rosie in their life.
just a tiny Rosie in their pocket. Yes, the best option for that. So there's a couple things. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching. So I can drop a link in for that. I love coaching one-on-one with people. It's a quick way to dive really deep into your results. I have also found though that I also have started offering group coaching recently just because it gives people an opportunity to dive into their strengths on a more ongoing basis, and just candidly it's more affordable. And so it just makes it more accessible to other people, and it allows you to learn through others and not just through me. And so I do one-on-one deep dives on people just to help them go into their themes. But I'm doing my next round of group coaching starting in mid-November. And so I do a
Okay.
4-week group coaching course that starts on November 12th. And I can drop the information on that here. But it basically takes you through the journey of Clifton Strengths of what we call name it, claim it, aim it. So, okay, what are my themes? What do they say about me? What do these words even mean? Okay, is this really me? It kind of takes you through like the denial of like, no, this isn't me. Oh, yes, this is me. This is what makes me really powerful. Like I've kind of seen you go through the journey of me just telling you about them. Um, and then the most important part in my eyes are, okay, once we know what your themes are, once you know what they mean, and you're embracing essentially, yes, this is who I am, then the most important part of the journey is, what do I do with that information? How do I use it and make it actionable? And so I don't want people to just take the assessment and say, oh, this is interesting information. I feel like I failed if that's all that people have taken away from it. And so what I do in a lot of my coaching is make sure people understand how to use their results in order to achieve their goals, in order to get past their roadblocks, in order to figure out what their next step is. And so that's a lot of what I do in my group coaching, is help take people through that journey, learning through me, but also learning through others and their collective strengths as well.
Amazing. You've got some fans in the chat. Dominic
Thank
Milanazzo
you.
said, you definitely want to do this. Taking the test and working with Rosie changed our whole company for the better.
Mm,
Thank you, Dominic, for
thank
the
you.
comment. Sharon K said, I'm with Dom. This is very important. And guys, there is a link in the chat right now. You guys can click on and get more information on working with Rosie. I highly recommend it. I tend not to promote many people. I'm very selective of the people that I bring into my world. And I am a huge fan of this woman here. She's not only an incredible mindset coach, but also you guys should see her dance.
You
I
know,
mean,
I can cut a rug. I'll give
she's
myself that.
she
That's
got the move. She's
my
got the
number
move.
35 Clifton Strengths theme is dance
Unreal. Unreal. If you're watching this and it's not Sunday at 1 o'clock, it's Thursday at 2. In the description, there's also a link for you guys to check it out. Rosie, thank you for spending your
Thank
Sunday with
you.
us. You're
Thank
such
you.
a bright, incredible human, and I'm really grateful that I have you in my world. And I want all of you to have a little bit of Rosie in your life. It just makes it that much better. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for spending time with us today, Rosie. And
Thank
for
you.
everybody in the Astro community, I'll see you on that call. Take care, folks. Have a
Thanks
great
so
day.
much. Thanks, Jamal.